or of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line? Address it to the Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195, Charlestown in Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. And by the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community, thought that get results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or a comment, perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper. Write it down so that you're well organized, and when you're getting on the show, you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards. But we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Thank you all again. You can also follow the video stream on our YouTube channel at Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe, and also on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio. This evening, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, good evening.
Good evening, Rebel. Good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to the entire listening and viewing audiences. And as per usual, I would just crave your indulgence just to send some special greetings, season's greetings as a matter of fact, to all of the people who normally take the time out to listen to us, particularly my cousin Sinwick down there in St. Kitts, my uncle in the USVR, my nephew in the States, and I think I left out somebody, Ted Hobson. Mr. Hobson, season's greetings. Well, some people would have started the journey with us this year and they would have left us, and we said pray for those persons. For those of us who are here and holding on, it is a struggle for a lot of us, but I would just like to extend some words of encouragement to all of us to just keep the faith. Keep the faith. We'll get through this, and I'm hoping that the new year will bring us all peace and prosperity.
The Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Rebel, and a very pleasant good evening to my panelists around the table. Let me say good evening to all those who are listening and viewing this edition of Let's Talk. I want to take this opportunity to all of those folks who are feeling a bit down tonight for one reason or the other, those folks who are ill in our various hospitals here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and to those who are seeking medical attention further afield. I want to say to those families who are in mourning tonight, kindly accept my condolences on behalf of my family and I. I know a number of persons who are on the death column tonight, and I believe that they would have contributed significantly to the development of this country. Certainly want to offer to their families my deepest and sincere condolences. To those who are celebrating tonight, whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some accomplishment in their life, I certainly want to wish them a wonderful, wonderful evening, and especially at this time of the Christmas. 2021 has certainly been a difficult year for many persons, and globally, and also here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I want to say to our people that I believe that we may be turning that corner of that difficult period. I want to say to them that they can steady course and be strong, hold fast. I believe that we are seeing signs that things are turning around, and we certainly look forward to 2022 with the expectation of great things here on the island of Nevis and certainly in the Federation. Webo, it's indeed a pleasure to be back here tonight, and thanks for the invitation.
Edric W. Stanley, good evening.
Good evening, Webo. Good evening to my fellow panelists. Good evening to the people who listen to us religiously on the World Wide Web and throughout the Caribbean Basin. Webo, sometimes we just don't learn anyhow. I must offer my praise to the people of Haiti for the catastrophic
explosion
explosion that occurred. And in the past, somewhere in Africa, there was a tanker carrying fuel, and the tanker exploded. And I'm wondering if nobody could have given these people some kind of guidance and to have told them it's a dangerous undertaking, and therefore, even though you're trying to save a few dollars by catching a few gallons of fuel, it is so dangerous that it doesn't worth it. But I believe nobody told them, and as a consequence, this tragedy occurred. Anyway, I remember them in my prayers earlier, and I will remember them again in my prayers. Those who have perished, and those who are still perishing, almost. Anyway, to those or people who have gone on to the great beyond, I offer my sincere condolences to those, especially my friend Jimmy. And Spencer went a few weeks ago anyhow. Well, that's all I'm going to say at this juncture.
Okay, what we got? Anybody?
Well, since I have the mic,
I thought you said that's all you have to say.
Well, no, not really. I'll just...
Okay. Go ahead.
Luckily, we have done well enough for the government to be offered a double salary. And it is very timely, because right now, so many people are hurting financially. And if the government sees it fit to reach out and offer a double salary, I am certain that people would receive it in open arms. As a result, it will go a very long way for Christmas. It's a nice Christmas gesture on the part of the government. And as a result, I would say congratulations to those who are running things and to have kept things going to the extent where all people can get a double salary. I will leave it there at this juncture, Webo.
I know if Naya were here, and circumstances are such that all of us can't be here at the same time, but I know that Naya would want to have something to say about this. I'm not going to speak on behalf of Naya, but I'm just going to make a general observation. I'm standing with reference to the people who are hurting financially, and he said that this help was extended to civil servants. But I'm not aware that civil servants, I don't have anything against civil servants, mind you, because as a pensioner I'm getting a double too. But my issue is the money is not targeting the people who really are struggling. The people who work for government, they've gotten their salaries, and the Premier has always boasted that even though he had to borrow money to pay them, they were always paid on time and in full. So this intervention really, I think, is not hitting the target where it should. This is off the target. I think that a more equitable use of this 7 million, because I think the estimate is about 7 million, Mr. Brand, you can correct me. About $7 million extra that was going to be paid. And you're paying it to people who have not lost a salary, they haven't lost a cent since the pandemic started. So I would have proposed, if I were in charge, I would tell you, because people like to say, well, what you would do. So let me just tell people what I would do before they even ask. This $7 million, I would divide that by the 6,081 individuals who were employed at the start of the pandemic. Irrespective of whether you're working now or not, everybody would get an equitable share of that $7 million, meaning that everybody would get at least $1,115.13 to take home and spend in the economy. Because if you're going to give Mr. Brand a double salary, he's already in the highest echelon, the highest paid bracket in government. What is he going to do with this extra $15,000, whatever it is? He is not threatened. He see things kind of growing right now, so he probably just put that aside in his special fund, his savings. But some people don't have that luxury of a savings. So I'm saying that I think that sometimes we need to think outside of the box, because had you distributed the money equitable, Mr. Brand might have said to himself, oh, well, it's only $1,115. What I'll do is I'll just donate this to my church. Or he might have donated to a worthy cause, but I'm not seeing him donate the $15,000 extra that he's going to get, or the $2,000 that I might get. So I don't see it impacting the economy that much. But I just spread it around, like I said, and I'm making the same point over again, but just for clarity. You spread the money, everybody get a little to spend for Christmas, and all of us would have had a Merry Christmas, not just some. Because you've selected a set of people who themselves are not under any financial strain, and then you're going to tell me that the electricity that NEVLEC is going to disconnect those people who are unfortunate enough to not even be able to pay the electricity bill for Christmas. So they can't even put up some fairy lights because they're struggling. I don't think that this is the best use of the $7 million that we got from the federal government for the Christmas.
Well, let me just set the record straight. I'm not working nowhere close to $14,000 or $15,000 a month. Let me just put that on the table.
And I'm not getting 2,000, by the way. I just said that just to make a point.
In 2020, well, you must make the correct point. In 2020, Webo, the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis contracted by 14.41%. In 2021, it contracted by 1.03%. That is over 15% in 2 years. And here it is that based on both budgets, federal budget and the NIA budget, combined figure is just about $1.2 billion for the next fiscal year. There is this chatter about this double salary and whether it should be paid or whether it should not be paid. I believe, Webber, that there are times some people are missing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that persons fail to realize that there are persons within our community, whether they are even though they are not working for government, that they would benefit from this double salary. There are businesses, there are families who would benefit from this double salary. And I think that while it sounds good that the money should be divided, and it sounds good, it is something that it sounds practical. But I believe oftentimes we tend to miss the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is that here it is that there would be another $7 million that would be circulating in the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I am here to say tonight that every man, jack, woman and child in this country is going to benefit from that, because there's going to be spending in the economy. Well, the double salary for a country who would have seen a contraction of 14.41% in 2020 and 1.03% in 2021, to pay another double salary in this climate says a lot about both governments. It said a lot about that even though that there was a contraction in the economy, that certain aspect of our economy is still doing well. And whether we like it or not, and there has been this lot of talk about CBI and money and so on and so forth. I listened in most parts to the budget today. And I think that there was a little thing that was missing from the budget presentation. How much money did St. Kitts and Nevis collected or generated from the CBI in 2021? I don't know if Mr. Stanley heard it, but I didn't hear it. And I believe that for a government to come and give another double salary, as they did last year, it says that there is monies that are available to the federal government to offer such a salary. And I want our people to recognize that while there are some stress and some difficulty in the economy, that the federal government was generous enough. A government where we have 3 representatives from Nevis was generous enough to say to the people, yes, 2021 was a difficult year, but here is a bonus, here is something to circulate in our various economies that I am certain that every single citizen in this country is going to benefit from.
I don't know, Mr. Brandon, how you can make an assertion like that, that every single citizen is going to benefit from that, because that is not the truth. That does not represent the truth. If you give monies to people who are not inclined to spend it in the economy, and because the economy in Nevis is dead, it is not likely that people who you've given up double salary gonna spend it. It is not likely. They probably use that as savings because people are so uncertain and people going through this period of time that people see the financial struggles that others been through. If I were to get the kind of monies that civil servants would get, you think I would spend it this Christmas? I would just spend one, the other one I would save it. But the point I was trying to make, and you tried hard to discount the fact that if you were to give everybody $1,000, then more people would be impacted and more people would spend in the economy. You're likely to have gotten more spent in the economy if you had more people involved in the spending of that $7 million. And that is just my fundamental point as it related to that. It is unfortunate, though, that the NIA seem at every opportunity, or the members of the NIA, they're always coming on the air and asking about how much in the CBI. And it is very perplexing, not only for myself, but I've heard it out there in the general community. If you are sitting in cabinet, then you ought to have a fair appreciation as to how much is being made. You have to ask the questions. It means if you're not doing that, you're not being effective as a member of cabinet. So being a member, I think that is an indictment on the 3 sitting ministers that we have from Nevis who travel to St. Kitts to work. Because if they're there and people are holding things from them, it is not a good reflection of unity. So I wish you all would desist from that and get the information from where you can, from the source, and not come and involve everybody else in this way. Because, well, I guess you're not involved with it directly, but the constant, bickering in public, I don't know that engenders confidence in the unity. And I'm a person who believes in unity, and it should work for all of us, not just for one, for St. Kitts. It should work for Nevis, and of course we're all entitled to our fair share. But we have to learn the fundamental concept of sharing, and sharing equitable. And there's a difference from getting an equal share of something and getting an equitable share of the same thing. And that distinction could be made. But to take to the airwaves and say, well, we're in the same household and we can't manage to resolve our differences within the same household. I don't know if it is being said for effect, for sympathy. I don't know what the intention is. But I've had enough of it, quite frankly. I heard my leader, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, on this same radio station on Monday night, laying out the information that she would have found as it related to the CBI receipts. And if she's in a position to retrieve that information online, I see no reason why you all can't do that. And even in the Nevis Island Assembly, I was hearing people talking about they're so good at Googling. I mean, just Google it then, and stop coming with this bickering all the time, because that really doesn't solve any issue. But back to the point of the $7 million, like I said, I don't begrudge the civil servants who receive it. I just want to submit that next time we can think a little outside of the box and make sure that we make everybody happy and not just some.
I'm not sure if everybody understands the trickle-down effect. And in this regard, once the money is spent or given to the civil servants, and they spend it in the economy, the well-known fact of the trickle-down effect will occur, and I am not so sure that Dr. Bartlett may misunderstood the trickle-down effect. It's a rising tide. It's a rising tide that will lift all boats. Therefore, if the government decides to give a double salary, it might be a political move. At the same time, it still has some beneficial effect regarding benevolence. I'm going to a bank meeting on the 16th, and I am heartened that we're going to get a little change after the meeting. I question as to how well they're doing, but at the same time, I may have mentioned it here before, that based on Raymond James, who that's the stockbroker in the United States, who looks after the welfare of one of our local banks, may have delivered again at the same time. Things are beginning to perk up to the extent where they might just be giving it in advance of the better things to come. So not only the government, the private sector too is going to do what they can to ensure that the people are treated well. So the trickle-down effect is a rising tide that will lift all boats. Weber.
Well, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Shut up. I will go.
Well, Dr. Watley said that the economy in Nevis is dead, I think she said. And I've been hearing some persons keep saying that nothing is happening. The economy is dead and I think that everybody would agree with that things are difficult. Let's put that on the table and be honest about that. Things are difficult. But I think that some of us fail to recognize that we continue to see expansion in the agriculture sector. Whether we like it or not, we continue to see expansion in the agriculture sector. We continue to see growth and expansion in the construction sector. We continue to see that there are numerous small businesses starting up. We continue to see that there are a number of new manufacturing entities that are coming online. Right? The government offered some incentive as it regards to real estate, and there have been a rapid sale and a rapid expansion of a number of real estate property on the island of Nevis. Right? Our social services program and safety net continues to expand, and we are saying that the economy is dead. I said earlier that in 2020 and in 2021, those 2 years, the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis contracted by 15%. We are in a global pandemic. The first and primary thing that the governments of St. Kitts and Nevis sought to do was to protect their people. We sought to encourage our people to go and get vaccinated so that they can be protected. so that once we reach where we want to be in terms of the numbers that we can reopen up our borders. That is happening now. We are now seeing that there are tourists now returning back to the island of Nevis and to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. There was a time when we tried to stabilize the economy of both islands, but nothing is happening. And I'm saying that that is, when you look at all of the OECS countries, and I think that we are fortunate and blessed here in St. Kitts and Nevis and in Nevis. We have not had any riots in the street because of this pandemic. We have seen the riots and the chaos and the confusion because of the crunch in the economy. We have been able to manage and keep every single civil servant on the payroll. It has not been easy. And when I listen to the naysayers that the sky is falling down, the first thing that we have sought to do is stabilize the economy, get past this difficult period. And I am saying that while things have been difficult, while I know that there have been some families who have been feeling the pinch because of the contraction in the economy, it is really not an accurate statement to say that the economy is dead.
Webo, I am perplexed. I can't understand how you can reconcile the two statements that you just made. On the one hand, you're refuting the fact that the economy is dead. On the other hand, you're making the point emphatically that you have had a 15% contraction. Now, what does a contraction mean to you? And what does a persistent contraction mean to you? If you have, well, I don't even want to get into the economic argument as to how many times you could be in recession, how many negative balances you can turn back in. But the two statements that you made are just not compatible. They're not consistent. You can't on the one hand say that things are so robust, and on the other hand claim that you have a contraction in the economy, because that, frankly, you can't sell that in elementary school. The startups you speak of, it's a good thing, it's a good thing for people to start businesses, but what we need is sustainability. And that is one of the issues that I think that as an administration that you've failed to do, is to deliver consistently. And I don't even want to use the consistently, the word, because really I haven't seen anything that points to development which is sustainable up to this point. People start businesses, yes, because you're required to register. If you have a tree on the side of the road, you're required to register, so you have a business. But when things get better, you just abandon that and you move on. I think when we speak, we need to be consistent and not try to pull the wool over the eyes of the people. As it relates to social services being expanded, and I don't know where that has been reflected in the budget that you would have presented for 2022, certainly not in 2021, because when I looked at the budget under social services, there's been a reduction in the allocation for social services. So I don't know on what premise you would have made that statement. And so I think that in itself is misleading, because people who have been struggling and expected something and didn't get anything in 2021, I'm sure you having made that statement would have given them hope that maybe something might be there for them in 2022, when in fact nothing has been budgeted in social services. It has not been reflected in what has been allocated to that division. And we have to be careful. We keep saying about how other countries are doing, but there's a difference between relative poverty and absolute poverty, because what we have around here, we have an increase in absolute poverty compared to somebody else. Yes, maybe it's not so bad, but it is still bad for us. So let us just keep those terms in perspective. Stop throwing out the net and say including other people, because their reality is not our reality. What they encounter over in Antigua is different from what we encounter in St. Kitts and Nevis, particularly in Nevis, because when we boast sometimes about the GDP, and you know, it seems as if everybody in St. Kitts and Nevis is doing well, because for some reason we have been told that prosperity in St. Kitts is prosperity in Nevis, but that really isn't so, because if we were to disaggregate the information the data that we collect, you would find that Nevis is not doing so well because of all those pillars that you spoke of about in industries such as you made reference to construction doing well, and two other elements you said were doing well, but with the backdrop of the dive that we took in tourism, which really was the major pillar, we have been leaning on one side for a long time, and all help really should have been extended to them, but I don't understand what you have really done to stabilize the economy, like I said, because a lot of us are struggling, but maybe you might have more data than I do, because I'm still yet to see data that represent how many people we have who are unemployed, because I made reference earlier to the 6,081 people who were employed at the beginning of the pandemic, and I know that you have had a substantial reduction in the number of people who are employed over that period of time that we speak. So we need those kind of figures to start making the statements, at least to support the statements that we're making, because I don't see us having a stable economy at all. It is good to see that the tourist boats are back, you know, and we have to make, you know, make allowances for welcoming them back, these people, without inconveniencing all of our people. Having said that, because today I went in town and I said I was going to bring that up, because I went in town and it was bad enough, parking was bad enough before, and now we take out, you know, because a tourist boat came in and we had to take out the whole of the front parking that we have close to the shoreline, and can't find anywhere to park. I didn't even mind paying for parking, but we still don't even have meters and stuff like that. So I think I need to see a little more progress, you know, and once you're going to stabilize the economy, I need you to do a lot more.
Dr. Martin, I'm not sure if you're getting it.
Mr. Stanley, you don't want to get in.
No, okay, let me get in.
This is Thought That Get Results. Edric W. Stanley, Dr. Patricia Bartlett, the Honorable Spencer Brand. We'll be back after these with your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700.
From the Caribbean's powerhouse.
Merry Christmas from all of us to you. Merry Christmas.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts, or call them at 466-4938.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results with Dr. Patricia Bartlett, the Honorable Spencer Brand, Edric W. Stanley. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Mr. Stanley.
We must not be myopic, and we must not suffer from amnesia at this level, let me say it. And as a result, I would say to those of us who travel the length and breadth of this island, and we will see the number of clearing, meaning construction is due to start, And as a result, that tells you that things are within that industry beginning to bubble to the extent where people have to pay. Of course, they get the money from the bank, and if the bank does not see the possibility of that person servicing that loan properly, simply because they may not have a steady job, but the banks see some growth in the economy, and as a result they will take the chance and lend, and as a result people will continue to clear land and to build. And
hello. Good evening, Weber. Merry Christmas to you and the whole panel.
Merry Christmas to you.
I would like to make an input here with Dr. Bartlett. Dr. Bartlett, you say you're getting pension too, right? You're going to get the double salary, right? If you're going to get the double salary, please give your money to the... You said on your show last week that St. John's Parish is the poorest parish in St. Kitts Nevis. I don't know where you get that from, but that's what you said. So please give your double salary you're going to get to the community, please. We need it.
You don't have to tell me that, darling. I always
please,
give, and I will continue to give.
You just talk from everything, the NRC, everything the government do, you are criticized. Right? You say 60% of the you say 60% of Nevis I work for the government. 60 out of 100, so I left 40. The rest 40, they working for private company. I do 2 jobs. Right? I work for the government and I get a next job. Every year the next job gives me a Christmas bonus. Ramsdale do the same thing. Value Mart do the same thing. You all got to get to do. Don't stop fooling people. Them I just coming with all kind of a jokey thing, a fool people. No, get the right stuff before you talk. Yeah, I just get fed up with this thing. Every minute you're blaming everything. The people get double salary. You say take the money and share it up for people.
So what is wrong with that?
The people that work for government, there is not working for. There is not dividend too. There is dividend.
But what is wrong with the proposal to give everybody some money? You have a problem with giving people money who don't work for government?
No, but what you want to say, take the money and share it up between. But the Nevis people, you got the people them here are working, right?
Mm-hmm.
They work for the government too, and Nevis perform. You.
Which people are you talking about?
Apparently the call has dropped. Caller, if you wish, you can probably try and get back in. But Dr. Bartlett, you wanted to make a comment?
Well, it's interesting. I don't understand why people cannot accept that people have different views and different perspective. I am the type of person who I like to look after everybody. I can't see one set of people, living well and the other set of people struggling. I have a fundamental problem with that, and it didn't just start just now. You have heard me here time and time again advocating on behalf of poor people. So it's nothing new for me. It's not a political thing for me. For me, it is a humanitarian thing.
That gentleman who was on the phone said he has 2 jobs. Right? Would you recommend Dr. Bartlett then that he gives up one?
Why would I recommend that he gives up one?
I'm asking you, would you recommend that he gives up one because he has 2 jobs and a lot of persons don't have any?
Well, I don't know of his speciality. He might very well have a speciality that nobody else could fill.
But if it is a speciality that other people can fill, will you recommend that he gives up one?
Rebel, once the guy would have presented himself to obtain the job that he has through a fair process, I am good with it.
So
I am not going to recommend that anybody give up anything just because, somebody else doesn't have it, if the other person doesn't have the requisite skills. and they didn't compete for the same job. But if the jobs are available, I have no problem with him.
So what if the civil servants who are getting a double salary argue that they are getting their double salary fairly, but you're suggesting that they shouldn't get a double salary when other people don't get a salary?
No, Bebo. I think you're misunderstanding me. What I'm saying is, if government is supposed to be fair for all of the people, I'm saying if you were to get a grant of $7 million, consider all of your people, not just some. Every year, civil servants, and I'm not knocking civil servants, I was a civil servant, I benefited from double salary. My proposition is that the monies that are available, consider everybody. Consider those people who are struggling. There's some people who have not worked over 18, going on 2
But to be fair, you're saying the same thing that you have said a half an hour ago.
No.
Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening. Mr. Brand.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The children's party will be held this year.
Sorry?
Where the children's party will be held this year.
Where the children party will be held this year?
Yeah.
I am aware that there is a fund there at the villa on Saturday.
The children's party that you and Mr. Brand usually hold. Even more.
I don't think that we are having a children party this year. We had closed it down 2 years ago because of the COVID pandemic.
I asked the question because I want to know how much money the lady that's talking will get from it and how much she share.
Well, that is not color to be. I mean, that
Yeah,
is.
don't go for good.
Yeah, let me
Don't go there. You know, don't entertain them kind of things.
Yeah.
That is just low. You know, people want to have a, you know, that is the kind of thing I don't understand. You want to have a discussion to raise the bar and look at where we at. Look at where we at, you know. But I am not, well, I wish we didn't have to, you know, entertain that kind of thing. No, people don't need to get personal. You know, why? Never mind. So, I think I wanted to make a point though, that Edric had made about the trickle-down effect. The trickle-down effect is not a concept that I do not understand. It is a concept that is based on capitalism. It is not one that is all-embracing for humanity. You know, this thing about you giving at the top and it trickle down to the man at the bottom, sometimes it doesn't reach to the man at the bottom like it was intended to. Some people in the middle sometimes just hug it. So it has never worked. So I don't know what economy is based on, and people are trying to move away from that. So that is an all-time concept about this trickle-down thing. Give everybody a free opportunity.
Okay, let me take this. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webo, and the rest of your panel dear.
Good evening.
Webo, as long as I can hear you moderating a show, I don't care to hear nothing else. Because I tell you, you are in the world top 5 moderators of talk show. Now, Dr. Bartlett, I have a question for you. You said instead of the government give double salary, why don't they share up the money to everybody? Now let me ask you this. I think you get in Social Security, that is your personal business, but if you do, would you take your Social Security money and share it up to everybody in the community? Would you do that? Answer that. Webo, have a Merry Christmas and a happy New Year when it comes, and the whole of One Radio and everybody in Nevis. Good night.
Thank you very much, and the same happy return
Dr. Bartlett,
to
you're
you.
attempting to address the trickle-down effect, but I did say a rising tide.
What rising tide?
The rising tide is the double salary, which is coming, and it is a rising tide that will lift all boats.
Hello, Doctor.
Well,
You go ahead, Mr. Stan.
it's a rising tide that will lift all boats, and if you were to look at the quantification of what is coming, it might be a certain amount. At the same time, if the government sees that they have received at a certain time in our operation, government operation, the revenue. There are lean years and there are good years. And in that regard, if for whatever reason they have received a certain amount in a lump sum or based on the economy in prior years, and they've got a surplus which they would have saved some from that surplus, it's only right, fair and proper for them to give whenever and whatever they can. And this is what I call the rising tide. It may not be only the 7 million.
You're talking about a hypothetical. We're talking about a real
No.
situation. The real life situation is, and let me just,
Let me take this first, please.
Kind of hypothetical.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, Mr. Weber, good evening. I think when I listen the budget today, I think I heard the Prime Minister say that he's going to be introducing a new stimulus package in the new year. So probably, those persons who who are not benefiting from the double salary, maybe they're gonna get a little something. He said in the new year, and nothing has not yet finalized. Something like he did last year, and already see through this Social Security funds. So probably those who will not be benefiting, probably they can look forward to a little something. And I think there's an extension also in the fuel the program there for the bus drivers. I think that has been announced this morning. That will be extended for the 3 months, and it will now include the taxi operators, not only the other bus drivers that carry passengers. So I think I should put that in. That's my little bit tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Rabo, can I respond to that?
Yes.
I think we need to recognize that the budget that was presented today is not a St. Kitts Nevis budget, mind you. This budget that was presented today was St. Kitts budget. Nevis budget was already presented. When was it? When? Tuesday?
Tuesday.
So if the and I don't even want to speculate as to what might come in the new year. But just to Mr. Stanley, I think you and I were about to.
Yeah, but the truth is, though, it is a St. Kitts Nevis budget.
No.
You gonna let me finish?
Nope.
Dr. Badgett, see what happens, right? When you speak, I allow you to speak. Okay? Now, the truth is, it is a St. Kitts Nevis budget. But one needs to explain for the persons who do not understand how the Federation works. And then you can go on and detect or dissect the whole area. But it is a St. Kitts Nevis budget because there are certain responsibilities that the federal government has that involves Nevis as well. So my duty is, right, to give information which might help in reference to the general public.
Rebo, I respect your input, and I maintain that the budget that was presented today is in the way I understand it. Because the way when I Google, because I Google too, when I Google the budgets, I Google two different budgets, and one says on the cover St. Kitts, and one says on the cover Nevis. So maybe that differentiation needs to be made clear in the media.
Praise the police.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yes, Mr. Weber, I called back to get something clarified based on what Dr. Bartlett is saying. I listened part of the budget last week from the Nevis end, and I didn't hear any double salary included in that budget. But this morning, the budget that was presented, my little common sense, it is for St. Kitts and Nevis because Nevis would be benefiting from the double salary, and that double salary was tied into the federal budget. So I don't know if anyone of the panelists can, correct me if I'm wrong.
And other areas too,
Another
caller. You're correct. I don't want to get into
Right.
that long discussion
Yeah,
at
the
this
kind of
moment, but I just wanted
in the Nevis
the
budget.
general public to understand
Yes.
what the facts are.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes. Go ahead. Who was it, Mr. Brand?
I think it was Stanley.
Stanley, go ahead.
Well, what I was trying to say specifically is that we have a country to run, and let's focus on Nevis for now. The tourist ships that came in.
Mr. Stanley, I'm going to let you continue, but good evening. Thank you for holding.
Yeah, I had to come back here, Webo. Let me ask Dr. Bartlett this question. Didn't you hear the Prime Minister say the double salary would be paid to civil servants in St. Kitts and Nevis? That comes out of the budget. So how can you sit there and say the budget is St. Kitts budget and not Nevis? Dr. Bartlett, let me tell you something. You throw your hat in the ring, the political ring, and where you just come on and say those things, look what you're saying, just because you are opposing the government? Well, I think you better take up your hat and trash back and keep out the political ring, because you're not improving. Thank you very much.
All right. Mr. Stanley, go ahead.
The larger picture is that the pillar of tourism, whether they come and stay in the hotels or they are on tourist ships, that takes precedence over certain things locally. And if the waterfront was curtained off to ensure that the COVID spread is managed, and that of course brought a little inconvenience for us. The larger picture is that those people come, they spend their monies, and from that the government gets a certain amount of revenue. So we have to look at the little pain that we have to endure simply because they're here, and what they are doing here is more beneficial than the little inconvenience that it poses for us. Webo.
Yes, Dr. Bartlett.
As it relates to, I don't even know what I'm responding to now. Is it Stanley I'm responding to, or the chapter?
I just mentioned you to see whether or not you wanted to make an input at this time.
Oh, okay.
If not, Mr. Brand.
No, but just, well, if I were to respond to, or got the opportunity to respond to what Stanley just said about the inconvenience, I'm like, is it necessary? We have to be logical about the things that we do, and practical and pragmatic. If your tourists coming off of this ship gonna go and integrate with the people in this, but never mind. I'm not gonna say how town should be run. I've had enough of that, because I passed today and felt things was still on the sidewalk, so I don't know. That's how town is being run.
Well, it is certainly good to see that the main engine of revenue, so to speak, our tourism plant, not only here on Nevis and St. Kitts, but throughout the region, we are seeing it coming back to life, so to speak. I think that it is a sign that while we have had a year of serious struggle, that we are seeing that there is some light at the end of the tunnel. And we know that our main tourism plant, Four Seasons, is basically up and running to a great extent. We have had an unfortunate incident there of a fire there at Paradise that would have created some difficulty for that tourism plant. We are hoping that they would be fully up and running very quickly to add once again the kind of facility to our tourism plant. And I think that while we go through this difficult period, I think that we've reached to a stage where we have to recognize that we will have to live with COVID. And I think that is what all of the experts are saying to us, that we will have to live with COVID. But while we try to manage and mitigate the impact of COVID on our country and on our economy, that there will be some inconvenience. We have seen, Webo, after 9/11, the kind of unprecedented inconvenience to the traveling public because of that. And I think that going forward, we are going to witness and experience some inconvenience in what we do and how we do it. But I think that while we practice the necessary procedures and protocols, that I think that we should get to a point and get to a place where things definitely will get better and should get better.
Well, I don't know if it is asking too much. All I'm asking for is that we start putting plans in place, making initial plans and making contingency plans, because I don't mind a little inconvenience now and then, you know, but if the season takes off like we would like it to take off and is sustained for the duration of the tourist season, then I think that we ought to have plans in place so that we can all coexist. It is unfortunate that and I'm not just speaking because I went in town on a particular day, because I try to keep out of town. But this is Christmas season, and we have more cars on the road than, you know, we probably should anyway. But the point is, if you have limited parking in town, then it's about time. And I don't know, government has a parking lot there that some people benefit from it, and we're all paying taxes for it. And only some people benefit because some people go to work early in the morning or go off to St. Kitts or wherever, park their vehicles there, and they take up this space for the whole day. I go in town, limited time, sun hot, don't want to walk all over the place, but I can't find any place to park. It is unfair to me as a taxpayer not being able to at least pay for parking if you know that were available. And I'm like, let us start planning Charlestown. Let us start laying out a plan and stop talking about people must just always, just soak up the inconveniences. You know, that is not. I mean, you know, I don't know that is a progressive way to think. And I keep hearing it all the time. Something happens in town. Somebody have a space on the sidewalk, people can't walk on it because their vehicle is parked there, and some people are going to say, well, take the inconvenience, and you know, I'm like, we don't have to. If we're a progressive society, we need to be doing things to make things better, put plans, policies, procedures, whatever in place to make things better. That parking lot that belongs to the government, that some people would, you know, say belong to a private company, that parking lot for by now should have been a metered parking lot as far as I'm concerned, and people get the opportunity to go in, spend 10 minutes or half an hour, whatever the period of time that we put in, and pay for the convenience. But to go in town and parking is already an issue, and a whole street is blocked off, where normally that would take almost half of the parking in town anyway. You know, that is too much of an inconvenience to ask people to pay for a protracted period of time. Likewise, I think that the fishermen are so inconvenienced at the same time, because just like we can't get access to drive in that area, fishermen cannot access the pier to land their catch as they're accustomed to, for the same reason. And I'm like, we need to make contingency plans if we're going to be in a progressive society. And that is just my simple submission. I don't understand why people seem to think that people can't be thinking independently. It always has something to do with politics. You can't have a view and it is not aligned with politics. And people need to step back and just listen, observe, and participate in a sensible way. Not everything is politics.
Nothing happens before it's time. I will repeat, nothing happens before it's time.
Okay, and it's time to allow this caller to get in, right? Evening. Thank you for holding.
All right.
Good evening. Just an input on this show.
Good evening.
I heard an announcement about a road being, what I must say, it's been changed in town. I did not hear the announcement fully. And I was driving in town today and I'm asking some persons which road is, has been changed, and a lot of person didn't seem to know. So please please clarify which road has been made a one-way road and no entry or something like that.
Okay, now because I read it, I probably can try to help you at this point in time. However, I will suggest to you that you can call the traffic department. They're talking about a road that is by the market, that passes in front of the Inland Revenue Department, and it was blocked off since the building reopened. And I think if you're coming from the market, you can come straight up now. It was blocked off where you had to turn left?
Yes.
Yes, you had to turn left, but now you can go straight up and then turn left. Right? I think that is what it was. If that doesn't work, it's satisfactory, the traffic department ought to be able to help you.
That is what it is, Weber. What it does, it reduces the distance that an individual will have to go all the way down by Scotiabank area. Instead of going
Republic Bank,
yes. Instead of going all the way down there, they can come straight up and get back up into Charlestown. So that was the idea behind it.
Okay.
It's not a bad idea for it to be blocked off. Government still looking at the finance department or the treasury building as a place where they can eventually, not trying to invite it,
Let's not invite it.
keep it blocked off. My suggestion is to have it permanently blocked off for the guard and guidance of government revenue. Don't you think some of the bad boys look and see what goes on there on a daily basis and looking for an opportunity to strike? I think the idea of having it blocked off is not a bad one. Well,
yeah, you see, that is what the debate is all about. And what I think at the end of the day we must understand is that I probably prefer a particular point. Edric probably disagrees with it. We debate and we argue. And then, according to the rules that we are operating under, if it is a head count or hand count, the majority rules, and you go with that. It's not a matter sometimes whether I end up, my idea is better or yours, but you operate on the rules because people have different views and opinions and so on. You debate and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we ought to be respectful and say, well, okay, see, you got the votes. So that's it.
They collect a lot of money on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, the point about it is that, I heard you, but the decision has already been made until such time when they reconsider what you say and then change it, because it can happen.
Yeah, it can.
Maybe they didn't take into consideration, maybe nobody thought about what Edric said. Maybe they'll go back to the drawing board and still remain how they are, or they might change it.
Maybe.
One thing I know, change is hard for some people to take. That's why sometimes we just don't get the kind of progress that we need, because people are just hardwired. Some people.
I could tell you why.
To change.
I can tell you why. The world is wired that way. Okay, when Jesus came, it was so difficult in getting what he was trying to get done that they kill him. And in fact, a preacher friend of mine told me, and this was his view and his assessment after all his studies, he told me they killed Jesus at the age of 33. But if it were these generations, he would not last till 33. I asked him how long will he last. He say in his 20s. So the world and life is like that. People have different views and so on, and that is why in part he said, come and let us reason. Because he understood that if he can get people to reason, if a person is of this certain level that they can reason,
come to a census.
yeah, you got it going for you. You know, but if you can't reason, then you have to refer to the other section that it says, argue not with... It's time to get a break. This is Thought That Get Results. Dr. Patricia Bartlett, the Honorable Spencer Brand, Edric W. Stanley. Your phone calls on 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. Be back after these.
From the Caribbean's powerhouse.
Merry Christmas from all of us to you. Merry Christmas.
I wanted to put that in, and before we continue perhaps with the callers and perhaps with what else you have to put on the table, let me just say a very wonderful and happy Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to Ted Hobson, to Conrad Nye Liebert, to you Dr. Bartlett, and Dr. Almost said Dr. Brand, I don't know, maybe he's coming. The Honorable Spencer Brand and Edric Superstar, Edric W. Stanley, and all of our guests who, not only this year but through the years, all of our listeners, all of our supporters. And let me just say, I learned a term that the young people use, and it's working for me. I got you. So I understand, I hear that when I say now, I got you, people say it works. So I got you all. Okay, I'm not so sure if we're going to be here next week. Not so sure, that's why I'm saying it now. Oh, and I also wanted to let you know that Dr. Twaits will be in on Thursday morning, same 8 o'clock, for our final session for the year. And even if you don't have a question on the pandemic or medical or what, you can join us and, send a greeting or something. So that's coming up on Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hello, good evening to you. Good evening to you. To all, and
yeah, you seem a little far away from the phone, though.
No, I'm not. I'm right up to the phone.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm just asking Mr. Stanley, with all of the security measures that were put into the Treasury building, do you honestly believe that blocking off that road is necessary? And if so, how about the one between the market and the same Treasury building? And let's go a little further, the one between the Treasury building and the library, and then the one on the east. Why not just block them all off? What would that get us? Good evening.
Okay, Mr. Stanley, that is addressed to you, sir.
Do nothing before considering what the end will be. Begin nothing. Now one street or partial street is blocked off, and I felt it is wise to keep it blocked off simply because of the amount of money collected there. It is the heartbeat of the financial intake revenue of the government, and it's only fair, right and proper for us to think outside the box and think ahead. Do you know what happened with one of our local banks doing Haide? It was Haide robbery. I do not know what the resolution was. I don't know if anybody been caught. But I can tell you, the people who are thinking about nefarious things, look at the number of people who go there
So
on a daily basis.
what if you were putting your case to a committee and I won the committee and I ask you? So in other words, if that street was blocked off, the bank would not have been robbed?
We do not know.
Your answer would be you do not know. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, Mr. Stanley. Persons are getting to a point now that you pay even water bill online. Transferring cash is getting a bit obsolete.
Technology, Mr. Stanley.
We understand that.
But if I was supporting you in your argument, Edric, I would simply answer that caller and say, yes, but until then. That would be my backup point.
Quite so, Bobo.
Okay.
Quite so. Until then,
Yes.
I'm saying we do not close the barn or the barn gate until we shouldn't close it after the horse has bolted.
Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert. I'm trying to find out from Mr. Stanley. What are we going to do? Block off Main Street now in front of Republican?
No, we don't block off every place. We have to have
What are you telling me, Mr. Stanley?
only one
come on.
blocked off right now. One short.
This is best to block off in front of the Treasury. Let's block off in front of the Republic Bank. You brought it up.
You didn't say block off Republic Bank.
No, I'm not saying we should block off Republic Bank.
Well, you brought it up.
No, I'm not saying that.
According to your reasoning.
No, my thing is, we have.
Mr. Stanley, according to your reasoning, it's best to block it off to secure the money in the building.
Fort Knox in the United States, all that is required is time. If a person has enough time, they will get into Fort Knox. That's where the goal is toward.
So then why not leave the road open?
Well, you have a view. I have mine.
You're arguing back and forth. Why not leave the road open?
You have a view. I have mine. I'm just saying to you, let us protect what we can at this juncture, and let us.
Yeah, so I'm just working with your reasoning, Mr. Stanley.
I didn't say to block off any other road.
Well, allow me to finish on Mr. Stanley.
Okay, go ahead.
To protect the money in Republic Bank, should we block off Main Street? In front of that. Thank you very much, Mr. Stanley.
Okay.
I got your answer.
Well, Weber, I hear Mr. Stanley. I don't necessarily agree with him because I think that the caller had a valid point. Just because something could be a potential risk doesn't mean that you may not enter into it. In each case, you must have a risk benefit ratio kind of analysis. What is the risk of someone robbing the treasury on a good day between a particular time when the guardman is there? And I would imagine that would have been a discussion or a consideration already. And I think that the measures that they have in place probably have worked so far. And I personally don't agree with Stanley that you need to block off the road just because potentially you think that, somebody might try to do something. There are other measures that you may not even be able to see. I would imagine that they're at that level of technology now that renders the building safe enough, when you do a risk-benefit, analysis, so that passing, just having that street open, and the previous caller, the lady caller who made the point about the transactions that are being done, the nature of the transactions these days is such that, because I wouldn't go into, the Treasury building and pay $1,000, cash. Everybody walk with a card nowadays, even the youngest people walking with gas, and then the older people walk with the checks, so I don't know that is a building that if I were into, a house, I don't think that a Treasury building is not a place, because government broke. Who gonna rob a broke building? I would look for a bank, but so I think there would be more reason for me to block off the street by the bank.
Anyone have any thoughts on the Pinnis Park?
I was just about to get to that.
Got a little glimpse. I saw a lady today who I hadn't seen for a while. She's from this side of the island, the St. John's area, Brownhill, and in exchanging greetings, she said to me, Webo, I went over so by the Pinnis Park, that side, and I haven't been that side for a while, and I will tell you something. I did not know. I was wondering if I was in Nevis, because with the Pinnis Park and then the Belmont, Belmont Gardens? Yes, the Belmont Gardens in that, and then Force in that area. So I just mentioned it. Anybody got any thoughts?
Well, Babo, I think that we have seen a transformation in that area from both private and public sector. This has been a park that has been spoken about for quite a while, and it is and will be available to the general public come this Sunday. It has been a long road to get to this point, and I think that the people of Nevis can and will be able to enjoy a setting as they would in any first world country once they visit that park. I just want to say to the people of Nevis, though, that it is your park. You must take ownership of it. You must care it. You must make sure that you do not allow the facility to be vandalized and be destroyed, because it is a very goodwill gesture from the people of Taiwan, and it shows the relationship that we have had with Taiwan for 39 years. They were the first country that recognized the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and that partnership have borne fruits over all of these years. So it has been a partnership. It is for the people of Nevis. It is for the people of St. Kitts. And I just want to say to our people to take ownership of it. Enjoy it. Enjoy the leisure. Enjoy the entertainment that would be available there. It is ours. And I think that when it's open on Sunday, that it would be something for all of us to be proud of. I think that a lot of time and effort went into it. I would have sat on a committee in the initial stage at the start of the construction to try and move things along from the planning point of view. So it was a holistic effort on behalf of the people of Nevis, the people of Taiwan. And as I said, Webo, come out on Sunday, the whole of Nevis come out on, well, I better be careful with that, because we are scratching our heads about if we'll be able to hold the whole of Nevis. But I think that it is something for us to look forward to on Sunday, and I just want to say to our people too, when it's available to the general public, go and enjoy it.
I stopped by and I see the progress, and I marveled. The clearing upon approaching the site is magnificent. It's a giant step forward, and I'm hoping that patrons would support whatever activity, commercial activity, is at the park, which I believe a certain section of it would be used for commercial activity. Little stalls, people might have little shops, as the case might be, and they should be supported financially so as to keep things looking and running the way it is intended. So I have to pay another visit there before maybe tomorrow. Maybe I'll pay another visit tomorrow to get an update, because you see, not only what it was, we have to now remember what it is and catalog it. An old thought came into my head. Well, let me not bring it to the fore. Let me not bring it to the fore. Because having arrived at my age juncture, there are a lot of things that I remember. I remember when Brownhill was a stony road. We stomped our feet going from Churchground to Brownhill. Now it's a city. And let us catalog and remember what it was, and to see what it is now, and to marvel at this point in time. Well, we have come a long way in Nevis. I came here in 1988. I went over to Dick's Bar, and then I said, maybe I should go back to St. Croix. Anyway, I came home 2 years before, and I looked, I saw, and I said I could exist in Nevis. And I thought long and hard, and then I decided, I rolled up my sleeve and did what I had to do. But the rest is history. We've just come a long way.
Rebo, I think most of us are looking forward to the opening of the Pinnis Park. Indeed, we need something, that we can all coalesce around, and we can all feel good about. It's always good to have these kind of projects, and the collaboration with the Taiwanese, I think, would have delivered for us a project which is very pleasing to the eyes. Indeed, what we have done there is a combination of the aesthetics that would have been long associated with the achievements of Dion Daniel, who is one of our local developers, and the Taiwanese, who, when you talk about aesthetics, I've been to Taiwan, and these people, they take pride in the projects that they turn out. And so people who have not seen it yet, I'm sure that they will be wowed by the entire surrounding in that area, because it really has been transformed. And I'm just hoping that going forward we would have more collaboration and have more public-private enterprises or collaboration on projects that we can move Nevis forward, because what I've observed is that the divergence between the two, it's just too far apart. We don't have enough in terms of collaboration. And because even speaking about Dion, I think he's doing something in St. Kitts now. And what he's doing in St. Kitts now is something that I wish, would have been done in Nevis, but for some reason he was not accommodated, I understand. I don't know what an accommodation means, mind you. I don't know. But I'm hoping that we'll be able to see more collaboration, like I said, between the private and the public sector. Because Nevis really, we have a long way to go. I know some people are impressed by, what they're seeing in terms of the roads, but we have to go beyond just roads. We have to be building Nevis block by block, not just, doing roads, but we have a long way to go. I think earlier someone was talking about the construction that is going on, and I just wish that we start thinking about building smartly. I don't know that we're building with a view that the houses that we're building ought to be contributing to the achievement that we want in terms of sustainable development as it relates to sustainable cities. And that, I think, is something that we have to start giving careful consideration to in terms of building sustainable cities. But there's work ahead of us, and we're all going to have to work together to make sure that it happens.
But it doesn't happen before it's time. Nothing happens before it's time.
I accept that.
But the other thing that I want to put on the table is the virtual completion of the TVET project there at the Gingerland Secondary School.
Which they had the graduation, and I got it on my list here. Yeah.
I think that while it is basically the first phase of this TVET project, because there should be another section there at the Charlestown Secondary School, I think that it begins to position us where we can holistically begin to train our people to take up a lot of the technical jobs, technical skills that we have been clamoring for some time. And again, Webo, I want to appeal to our people that a significant sum of money was invested in this project. And I want to appeal to our people that once they enter into that facility, make use of it, take advantage of it, and care it, and leave it for others to come behind. Because the idea is that we can now begin to have that nursery for those skill set right here. And I want to encourage our people that once that is available or made available to persons to register and get involved with those various courses, that they must embrace it. And I think that this again is another component as it regards to developing and building our country. So I in a pandemic we have been doing a few things. Could we have done more? Absolutely. But like I said at the beginning earlier, the main aim and the main goal for the last year and a half, 2 years almost, is try and stabilize the economy, stabilize the country. And I think that we are getting to that point where we have to live with COVID. And once we get that in our people's mind, and I want to reiterate again that for those persons who may not have availed themselves of being vaccinated, there is still the opportunity to do so. Because now our borders are virtually open. We can very well see once again the infection coming back to our shores, and I want our people to be protected and safe.
Well, I would say that we have to commend the government, federal government and the local government, NIA, for the management that they've put in place to bring us thus far. And based on what has happened around the world, elsewhere, we have done a pretty good job regarding the management of COVID to have gotten us from where we were to where we are. And again, congratulations to Dr. Nisbet
Judy Nisbet
and the team, and the other doctor in St. Kitts, Dr. Cameron and Dr. Laws, for the guidance, the sturdy hand on the wheel to have brought us this far. Ships are coming back. Tourism is on the rise, and we are hoping that we can lower from the Taiwan, not from the Taiwan, but from the trip to Dubai, we can lower some of the investors from that convention, I call it a convention, to our shores for them to invest in our country and to help us to build and to get where we really want to go academically and financially. So, all hands on deck. Webo.
Well, it's interesting that you talk about the expo that they had in Dubai, and I know that we had quite a showing there from what I've heard, and something I understand we should be proud of as citizens and residents of St. Kitts Nevis. I understand that we had a good, relatively good showing there, and I commend those people. However, I really would like to see us diversify just a little bit more, just to include the people we have in the diaspora, because I think that is a avenue that has been untapped for too long now. I'm aware that we have people in the diaspora who are doing well, and I think that we ought to be reaching out to those people to get them involved in nation building. We can't just reach out to them when it's election time. I think that there's a place for them here to participate in the socio-economic development of their own country, and I'm not so sure that I see a credible enough effort to include them in what we're doing here. We need also an expansion in our population, because we're not doing very well as it relates to that. We're losing people every year. We've had negative net migration rate for a couple of years, I understand. Well, we're waiting on the population census anyway. But we in Nevis, we want nice things, and we're going to have to pay for nice things, but 12,000 people can't pay for all the nice things that we want. So we're going to have to try to include other people's money in what we're doing. And I think that one of the sources would definitely be our people in the diaspora. And I'm hoping that there's a plan. And even if this government were not to return, I'm sure that NRP would have a plan to reach out to people in the diaspora to get them included in what we're doing here. Because we need, like I said, to widen our scope in terms of who's going to pay for all of the things that we want. We have an airport to rebuild. 12,000 of us can't, I think, subsidize, or pay for, not subsidize, but pay for all the amenities that we want on island. So we're going to have to find a way, and just to target people in the Far East. I mean, I don't know if that is sufficient enough, because other people are offering them similar packages to what we are offering, and some people are even willing to undercut us, to get ahead. So we have to be mindful of that, and I think that reflecting in the CBI receipts over the years, it's shown that there has been, since the competition is increasing, there has been, from what I've heard, because I've not really seen audited reports on it, that the receipts maybe have been dwindling a little bit, and to the extent that, we ought to start looking about diversifying our economy and including other people in the building of Nevis.
Well, I believe that we have gone out. I was supposed to have gone to Dubai on this particular trip, but I'm not in a physical condition to be in Dubai, to therefore I didn't really sign up to go. But I have attended several of the meetings where the administration was trying to see how many of us could be available at the time to go, and to have all things ready to be marketed and so on. But we have been discovered, and I'm hoping that those people who have discovered us from other jurisdictions would be able to understand what we have to offer. Peace, tranquility, sun, sand, friendly people, and we have to continue to beckon to them for them to come to our shores and help us build. In the past, we have had people from Lebanon, people from Israel. The history is there based on the Jewish cemetery, and we have now the Chinese, who are here, not in as great numbers as we would like, but some people do not understand, some of us don't understand the contribution these people can make and will make, and they are not making a contribution to return to the country of birth, to their country of birth. But eventually they will be integrated in our society, and when we look at the cultural aspect, they become part of our fabric, cultural fabric, and they will die here. They will live and die here, because when they come, they bring their money, and ultimately they will invest it, work it to the extent where they will be able to get the returns and keep them gainfully employed, and ultimately they will become, like I said, part of the fabric of our society.
Well, let me just say that let there not be any doubt that Nevis is not open for business. Nevis is open for business, and governments, this government, previous governments, have sought to offer tremendous incentives for local investors, foreign investors, to do business in Nevis. I don't want anyone to have any impression that the island of Nevis is preventing anyone from investing or developing in their country. No government in Nevis can do it alone. We need both the private sector, we need all hands on deck to help build this country. And I want to make it very clear that the government is prepared to partner with anyone who is prepared to partner with the government. And as I said before, we are open for business. We have experienced some things, Webo, over the last year and a half, 2 years. And when I became a minister in government, what has transpired in Nevis over the last year and a half, 2 years, was probably the furthest thing from my mind or from our minds. And I don't think that the world really was prepared for what happened with COVID. It continued to be a dynamic situation, but I want to say, Webo, that this is something that I really hope that the world have really learned a lesson from. And how we deal with people, how we interact with people, how we treat people, and how we take care of people, how we interact with people because of this what COVID-19 has taught us. Many persons, many countries have just been going along on their merry-go-lucky way. But I think that COVID basically have brought even the mightiest of us to our knees. And I think that it basically make us check ourselves, make us look at who we are, make us understand that, hey, we don't necessarily have all of the answers all of the time when we want it. And I believe that going forward, we must learn some lessons from COVID. And I am hoping, Webo, that 2022 and beyond, we will begin to relate to each other in a different way, because we have seen what COVID has done, not only to St. Kitts and Nevis, but to the world.
Let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding. Good evening. You're on the air.
Good morning, Weber.
Go ahead, Mr. Brand.
Well, while I'm on the mic, I think you said you are not certain if we will be back here next week. So I want to use this opportunity to wish you, Webo, and your staff here at Van Radio a very Merry Christmas, and your family a very Merry Christmas and a bright and prosperous 2022. I want to also wish Mr. Ted Hobson and his family, Conrad Nyer-Liburd and his family, Dr. Bartlett and her family, Mr. Stanley and his family, and all of the listeners and viewers of this program a Merry Christmas and a bright and prosperous and healthy 2022. As I said, 2021 has been a difficult year. It's been a challenging year, but I think that we have come through it. We have lost a few persons along the way, and I know that some persons are ending the year with a kind of heavy heart, some sadness in some families because of the loss of in 2021. I hope and I pray that 2022 would be a lot more favorable to them and to their families. I want to also use this opportunity, Webo, to say to the good people of St. Paul's, Charlestown, wish them a Merry Christmas, a healthy and safe 2022, and I hope that all their wishes and dreams and aspirations would be born out in 2022. I am cautiously optimistic that 2022 would be better than 2021 in every aspect of our daily lives, and I pray and I hope that it would be so for all of us, all Nivisians, all Kittitians, all people throughout the world, whether we are here, whether we are in some distant land, that 2022 would be a much favorable year for all.
Well, I really would like to just endorse all of what Mr. Van just said, and just to add my personal notes to the people who have been supporting me. I crave your indulgence. I would like you to continue to do so. I would like to just, however, though, just appeal to all of us, because we, without doubt, we're heading into an election year. And I just want for us to start to engage on a more mature level, you know. And we need to be able to discuss things, and Webo, I know you alluded to that earlier this evening, as to the way we interact, you know, the way we discuss. I mean, we say we are 95% literate or 98. We have to start, you know, behaving like we are. We have to be able to engage in debates, discussions. We may not agree on everything. We may not agree on anything. But we need to be respectful. You know, we need not to follow people who want to indulge in personal attacks on other people, because that is not helpful. That definitely doesn't help to advance us as a people, and it just makes us sound, you know, like we're less literate than we really are. So I'm hoping for 2022 that all our lives will be transformed for the better. All of us, not just some of us. So when I come and I have an alternative view to what Mr. Brand might, you know, present, my perspective is obviously different from his. And this is not about being sexist, but there are things that women look about that men pay scant regard to, not to suggest that they're insensitive, but just to suggest that we are wired differently. So if Mr. Van thinks it is wise to give money to just a few set of, you know, or one particular cohort in the society,
but Dr.
and
Marty, were you personalizing it to me?
No, I didn't really mean you. Okay, no, I didn't mean it that way. I just meant.
No, Mr. Brand, I'll give you a chance. Go ahead, Mr. Dr.
I just use you because you're next to me,
Okay.
not make it personal at all, because I'm not saying that you made that decision. I was just trying to suggest that there are different perspectives. Let me leave it at that, because right away people are on, you know, I just said it wasn't about being personal. I was just trying to illustrate that we can have differences. So let me leave it that way, and just to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year, and I hope it would be healthy for all of us.
Mr. Brand.
Well, leave it.
Mr. Stanley.
Well, Dr. Bartlett, you have to understand and face reality. Face reality. The nature of the beast is combative. The nature of the beast is rancorous. And no matter how you try to tame that beast, it's untamable. It's untamable. May I coin such a word? And therefore, we have to become insensitive to certain things that might be thrown at us, whether generalizing or it becomes personal, because obviously it is not. It is the nature of the beast, as I've said, and therefore one should assess the risk and reward before they attempt to entering into such an episode or combative arena. As a result, you will have your complaints, and everybody will have their complaints based on their perspective, based on the role they play, based on what they have or haven't accomplished, and as a result, one must become realistic. Now, the portion regarding the finances, we understand it. We have different perspective. We will always have different perspective because of whom we are, and has nothing to do with male or female. Even though we believe we are wired differently, there are times when we got the same thoughts, ideas, and the avenue for implementation of those ideas. It's a war. I repeat, it's a war. Get all your gears, not you only, but everybody who's engaged in this particular fight, in this particular battle, and therefore go forward and try to defend your castle tooth and nail. I must take this opportunity to wish all of you panelists season's greetings and the best for 2022, your families included. Weber.
Well, I think for next year, I think I'm going to take on the challenge to try and see if I can get some people transformed, because if we continue to do the same thing in the same way that we did 10, 20, 30 years ago, Nevis is not going to progress. It's about time we get people to at least understand that there is a higher standard. We have to lift our game. There's no war between me and Mr. Brand. There are issues that come up that we will discuss, and I have no issue with Mr. Brand. I love Mr. Brand. Him and I have a good relationship as far as I'm concerned. I don't get personal with him. I try to deal with the policies.
You think
not
Mr.
with the
Stanley
personalities.
will be among the people that you will wish to transform?
No, I don't have any giving up on that one.
No, don't give up.
But there are some there is some young, you can bend some plants, and get them to grow in a certain way. When you're old, it's not easy, so you just gotta give up on some. And Stanley is one of them. giving up on. I ain't expect no transformation there, and so I ain't gonna waste my oil on that one. You know? I just pray, continue to pray for him, because he's a human and he deserves prayer.
This program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Again, you all have a wonderful season, bright and Merry Christmas and a bright and prosperous New Year. We thank you for your service. Thank you for listening for the year, and we wish you a great new year ahead. You all have a wonderful evening.
And opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the News Broadcast.